Well, it wasn't remarkable for what it was, but rather for where it happened. A small group of visiting Israeli officials, including Israel's communications minister, held a prayer service to celebrate the Jewish holiday of Sukkot. But this took place in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, and under Saudi law, Islam is the only religion which can be practiced in public in the kingdom. Notably, though, Israeli and Saudi leaders are working to normalise relations. Joining us now is Stephen Cook, Senior Fellow for Middle East Studies at the Council on Foreign Relations. It's good to see you again.
Great to be with you.
Okay, so this kind of was an amazing moment in and of itself, a prayer service for the Jewish holiday of Sukkot taking place in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh. And clearly both sides are sending a message here because these images were made public. So what's the message?
Yeah, it's something rather extraordinary, something I never thought I would see in my lifetime, Jewish prayer happening in Riyadh and that it be broadcast to the world. I think it's yet another signal from the Saudis that they are interested in normalizing relations with Israel and importantly, normalizing Judaism in their society. It was not long ago that official Saudi media sources referred to Jews as the descendants of pigs and apes. So this signals a major change in the direction of Saudi Arabia's view, not just of Israel, but Judaism as a religion.
I want you to listen to the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, speaking last month at the UN General Assembly.
There's no question. The Abraham Accords heralded the dawn of a new age of peace. But I believe that we are at the cusp of an even more dramatic breakthrough, an historic peace between Israel and Saudi Arabia.
So is the biggest challenge to that peace deal, is that coming from within Netanyahu's own far-right coalition government and those members who are opposed to giving concessions to the Palestinians?
Yeah, absolutely. That really is the problem. The Saudis have been very clear that it's not a question of if, but a question of when. But Netanyahu has a problem within his coalition in that he does have a variety of very far-right members of his governing coalition who, if you ask them whether they preferred normalization with Saudi Arabia or annexation of the West Bank and changing the status of the holy sites in the old city of Jerusalem, they would pick annexation and changing the status of the holy sites. Until he resolves that political problem, I think the Saudis will take the kinds of steps that we've seen without there being the kind of big agreement that Prime Minister Netanyahu was hinting at the UN.
Also thrown into the mix here, 5 years ago, Jamal Khashoggi, the writer for the Washington Post, a Saudi dissident, was murdered on the orders of the Saudi Crown Prince. So how much of this diplomatic deal, this outreach with Israel, is being driven by the kingdom's desire to improve relations that have been frayed by that decision, basically the murder of Khashoggi, and trying to improve its image, if you like?
Yeah, I think in an indirect way it is. I think the broadcast of this prayer service, the very public visits of two Israeli ministers in a row, are an effort to demonstrate to the U.S. Congress in particular that there are benefits to normalization. And because Israel remains so popular among members of Congress, this will rebound to the benefit of the Saudis. It's not a bad bet for the Saudis to make, but there are, for some members of Congress, the Saudis remain beyond the pale.
Well, also beyond the pale, it seems for Iran's supreme leader, a warning that any Muslim country considering normalizing relations with Israel, quote, the definitive stance of the Islamic Republic is that the governments which prioritize the gamble of normalization with the Zionist regime will incur losses. As the Europeans say, they are betting on a losing horse. He then went on to predict that Israel would be destroyed. But is this all getting a bit complicated for Iran? They just recently re-established diplomatic ties with the Saudis.
Yeah, the supreme leader was particularly active on Twitter today with his threats to Israel and warnings to those countries that would normalize relations with Israel. I think it suggests that the Iranians are quite nervous about this normalization, but not just the normalization with Israel, but a major defense pact that may be part of any normalization deal between Israel and Saudi Arabia will come with a defense pact between the United States and Saudi Arabia. The Iranians would like to push the United States out of the Gulf region. A defense pact would mean that the United States is there on a more permanent basis.
Stephen, as always, great to have you with us. Thank you.
Great to be with you.